This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And today we have a very special guest. He's an old friend of the Rich Dad Company. His name is Jim Rogers. He's infamous. He's not just famous. He's infamous. He doesn't say much about it, but he was George Soros's partner in the Quantum Fund. And those guys were they were the best of the best in world investment worlds. I don't know what happened to their partnership. He doesn't talk about it, but Jim has become a very good friend. I ran into him for the first time, I think, in 1998 in Washington, D.C., and he was with Steve Forbes, James Dale Davidson, Lord Rees-Mogg, and they were talking about the global economy. And Jim Rogers, I'm going to ask him to talk about this, but he's such a wild man. He's a gentleman, but he's a wild man. He gets on a BMW motorcycle and rides all over the world, across Russia, China, down through Africa, South America. And then he did it again in a Mercedes-Benz. And the guy has seen the world. So today we'll be talking to a friend, and I run into him a lot of the investment conferences and all this at Freedom Fest, and he's going to be talking about what he sees of the world now, because the world has changed dramatically, as we all know, since January 2020. The world is a very different place today, and so it's a really honor to have my friend of Rich Dad, Jim Rogers, talking about what he sees in the world today. Rather than trying to guide you, I thought it'd be best if you just... Hey, could I ask you for one favor, though?
Anything.
Could you mind just telling the world about what it was like to write that book, Investment Biker? Because I think it applies today, if you know what I mean. To go around the world on a bike. And now it's kind of prophetic.
Well, Robert, I grew up in the backwoods of Alabama. My phone number was 5. It was that far back in the backwoods. That was not a typo. My phone number was 5. 115. So as far, and I grew up, wanting to see the world. I knew there was something else. And I knew at an early age that motorcycles were the best way to see the world. And the best adventure. So most of my life, I wanted to go around the world on a motorcycle. A little bit crazy, I guess, but I did. And so finally, I had enough money saved up. I got permission. It took a long time to get permission from the Soviet Union, permission from the Chinese, but finally I did, because I wanted to do it right. So off I went. And when I came back, for whatever reason, I decided to write it all down. Yes, the adventure was the ostensible reason for the book, but the real reason for the book was to tell about what's going on in the world and what was happening, because many places were and are making mistakes, as you well know. My goodness, if anybody knows, you know. And so I wanted to write it all down. Nobody had gone around the world on a motorcycle and written it all down before, about the world, that is. So I wanted to tell people about the world, and I decided to do it again. And to this day, as you well point out, and as you well know, the world is making a lot of mistakes now, and the same sorts of problems are arising. But Robert, you're smart enough and old enough to know that the world's always been making mistakes and always will.
Right. Anyway, I just thought it was prophetic that how much courage that must have taken to ride a motorcycle all around the world through Africa and all this. And then your Mercedes on top of it the second time. And here we are again, and the whole world is shut down. You couldn't do it today. They'd lock you up. So I just wanted to have your unfiltered, I'm not going to guide you. I want you to just tell my audience, the Rich Dad audience, what you see going on in the world. And
well, what's happening now, of course, is, at least in my view, there is a huge reaction to the virus. In my view, it's an overreaction. We've had pandemics before. As recently as 2009 in the U.S., we had the H1N1 virus. Well, we didn't close McDonald's. Delta didn't stop flying. The world didn't come to an end. This has happened before. It seems to me that for whatever reason, a few months ago, politicians or media or somebody started overreacting, and now the whole world is closed down. Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, and that's what seems to be happening now, if you ask me. Do not think that I'm saying it's wonderful to get the virus. Do not say I think it's wonderful to be sick or to die. I'm certainly not, and I'm in the age group which would be most vulnerable to the virus. But no, I wish that we could go back and start over, keep calm, and handle this in a more reasonable way. The world is really going to suffer. You see what Washington is doing, not just Washington, everywhere. The politicians are printing staggering amounts of money, spending staggering amounts of money. Every day in Japan, the Bank of Japan goes, the head cranks up the printing presses, prints money as fast as he can, buys ETFs, buys bonds. Now he has permission to buy stocks. Every day he just buys as much as he can print. But it's happening. I mean, the U.S. is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, Robert. And look what we're doing. Another few trillion. I mean, I feel sorry for everybody in the U.S. I feel sorry. My kids, young people in the U.S., Robert, I don't know how they're going to cope. In 1920, the UK was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number two. And then they started doing the same thing. You know, they went nuts. And now the UK is not even in the top 20 anymore. Still there, but the standard of living compared to what the UK had then and now is dramatic different. So I feel sorry for young people in the U.S. I feel sorry for you and me, but I certainly feel sorry for young people.
So let me ask you this question, because I had this discussion with another gentleman earlier, and he says this is like 1929 or the Depression. And I said, well, there was one difference, is back in those days, the businesses died of natural causes. And this one, everybody got killed. We just shut everybody down. And I said, so there's a little bit of a difference, and I don't know how much money we have to print to save everybody now that we shut everybody down. So I was just wondering what your crystal ball might say the difference between 1929 and 2020.
Well, as far as how much we'd have to print, and I'll come back to your question specifically, in the Bank of Japan, they said, we will print unlimited. That's his word, unlimited amounts of money. I said, he cranks that printing press up and runs it as fast as he can. The UK, they said, we will do whatever it takes. The EU, same thing. They're all printing, and you know what's happening in Washington. I mean, you're there in Phoenix, so you know what's happening in Washington. How much it will take? Unfortunately, because of what the U.S., what everybody's doing, closing down everything, it's going to be very hard to recover because huge damage is being done. I'll give you one small story. There are millions. I live in Singapore. There's a guy here who has some Michelin restaurants. He's got a few restaurants. He's a successful restaurateur. He's having to sell his wine cellar. I'm buying some of it, but things are that bad. And when and if he can open again, he's going to be at least $2 million in debt, and he's never had debt in his whole life, and has no wine cellar. So, I mean, this is the sort of damage. I'm just using that one small restaurateur as an example. This is the sort of damage that's being done to many companies, many people, many families around the world. You're right about the 1929 and now. This is a big difference. And another difference, by the way, in 1929 and now is the U.S. was not a huge debtor. The U.S. are now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and we are adding to it as fast as we can. There's an election in November, Robert. They all want to get reelected. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about my kids. They care about getting reelected. Well, I'm afraid I care about more than that.
So do you ever prognosticate or do a crystal ball or a model scenario? I mean, with so much money printed, and that old saying is that the Fed is out of bullets. We're at quantitative easing. Can't go any lower in interest rates. And we're going to have to print more to stop the bleeding, to stop the hemorrhaging. You have a crystal ball? I mean, do you ever do that? Do you look into the future?
Well, Robert, unfortunately, that's how I pay my bills. I have to try to look into the future. I mean, what I expect to happen, but because first of all, we had this gigantic collapse, and that often leads to a big rebound, just because that's the way markets are. Now everybody is printing and spending and printing as fast as they can. So the markets are going up. Obviously, that's what they have to do. But eventually, and remember again, I want to repeat, there's an election in November in the United States. So nobody's going to be against it. Even if they have a sound mind, they're not going to be against it because they need to be reelected. This is somewhere along the line, Robert. The market's going to say, wait a minute, we've seen this movie. We're not going to play this game anymore. And then we're going to have another leg down, a big leg down, and it's going to be horrendous because the debt is staggering and the money that's printing is staggering. One conceivable possibility, there's a theory around these days, new monetary theory called modern monetary theory, right, which basically says that everything anybody sound knows doesn't matter. Just give me a free lunch. Give me a free lunch. Give me a free dinner. Give me a free everything. So, in times of real stress, strange ideas come up and get following. Mr. Marx had some strange ideas, and a lot of people tried it for a while. It didn't work. But that didn't stop people from trying it for a long time. So we may have more of the same. They just may print like the Bank of Japan. He cannot stop printing. And I'm afraid that's going to happen to a lot of us. And the debt is going to be staggering. And I don't like saying it. I'm an American citizen, but I don't want the U.S. to go the way of Great Britain. But I'm afraid it's going that way.
Well, I followed you in Japan. And no, I was ahead of you. And then you came up with a book, The Future of Japan, and a warning to Japan. And I was actually happy you backed me up because, I was Chicken Little talking to the Japanese people. So I kind of appreciate you backing me up when you followed through on that whole thing. But it's pretty sad, isn't it? I mean, they're such a highly productive, educated people, but their economy is going down.
Well, it's one of my favorite countries in the world. I mean, I love to go to Japan, but Robert, you're right. I mean, what's going to happen? I know what's going to happen. Japan is now in decline. The debt skyrockets every day. The population goes down. The population has been declining for 10 years. They won't have babies. They don't like foreigners, so they won't have immigrants. No, I don't like it at all, what's happening there. But it certainly has been but 50 years, where are we going to get sushi in 50 years? What's going to happen? It's not going to be good, but it's not just Japan. I mean, Western countries, you see what's happening in some Western countries now. Even Germany, Robert, even German cities, some of them are in trouble now. Yeah, we worry about Illinois. Germany, and when I was a kid, there was nothing sounder than Germany or Switzerland. Now they're both going nuts.
So do you have any words of wisdom or prophecy or encouragement or?
Listen to Rich Dad Radio. Those are my words of wisdom. What about you, Robert? I will tell you what I'm doing, but Robert, you well know that people should, at least I will say that people should not listen to other people. They should only invest in what they themselves know a lot about.
Right.
Listening to somebody on the internet or the TV or the radio or the newspaper can be crazy. Living on hot tips will send you to the poorhouse. I will tell you, yes, I've been buying gold and silver again for a few months now. I own a lot of U.S. dollars. I just gave you reasons that the U.S. is in trouble and getting worse. So you will probably say, being the smart guy you are, why do you own U.S. dollars? It's unsound, but I own it because in times of turmoil, people look for a safe haven, and the U.S. dollar is considered, for historical reasons, a safe haven. And then you look around and not going to buy the euro or the pound or other things. So I own a lot of U.S. dollars. It's going to get overpriced. It might turn into a bubble, at which point I hope I'm smart enough to sell and put my money somewhere else. Agriculture, I was just looking around yesterday, all asset classes around the world. And I guess agriculture or commodities, especially agriculture, have to be the cheapest of anything. Bonds are in a bubble. Stocks in most places, the U.S. stock market made all-time highs in February. So it's not cheap, even though it went down a bit for a while. I don't see anything. I mean, Robert, maybe everybody should become a farmer. We don't have time or room for that. But as I look at Russia, I bought something in Russia yesterday, about something in China yesterday. The Russian market is hated. And whenever anything is hated, I like to take a look. The Chinese market is down 60% from its all-time high. Even Japan, I'm looking at Japan. It's down 50% from its all-time high. Yes, Japan's got a disaster ahead of it. Does not mean it can't go up if the Bank of Japan is buying stocks every day. I mean, the Bank of Japan has more money than I do. If they're going to buy stocks, maybe I should help them. I mean, these are some of the things I'm doing, Robert, but please, people should do what they know, not what other people know.
Yeah, and that's why when we come back, I just want to have your the world has never been here before. And so since the reason I started with being an investment biker, you've seen the world from road level, but I'd like to have you read on what's going on in this world as best possible. We're Rich Dad has a global audience, and too many times, as you know, Americans just see America from America, and that's it. So when we come back, I'll be asking him further questions of what you see, and I agree wholeheartedly. A person's got to do what they're going to do. So we're right back with Jim Rogers, one of my favorite guests. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android and YouTube. And please leave a comment. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because all we sell is education. And one of the best ways to learn is via repetition. So listen to this program again with friends, family, and business associates, because with such a special guest is a world international investor, Jim Rogers. He's infamous. I mean, he's beyond famous. He's infamous. And when he speaks, everybody listens because his view of the world is different from everybody else. So, Jim, the thing I was talking about with another friend of mine was that it's not about predicting, it's about being prepared. So, looking at the world from where you see it today in the world economy, do you have any suggestions on how a person prepares for this brave new world we've just entered?
Robert, what you just said is extremely important, and I hope everybody remembers that what they need to do is become knowledgeable about what's going on. You can listen to Rich Dad Radio Show. You can do whatever it takes for you to become knowledgeable, but you must, in 2020, become knowledgeable about what's happening out there, because it's very important, especially now. As Robert says, this has never happened before. Once you become knowledgeable, then you're going to say, oh my God, then you're going to get worried. Then you're going to get extremely worried. And once you get extremely worried, then you will start to prepare and get ready.
Okay, so let me ask you your viewpoints, and just off the cuff, I haven't prompt Jim. What's your view on China? What state are they in right now?
Well, China's having its worst economic problem in several years, decades, as a matter of fact, for all the reasons we know. The Chinese are doing a less bad job. They've certainly, if we can believe the numbers, contained the virus less badly than anybody else. They still have interest rates, Robert. I mean, they didn't go nuts yet anyway. There are proper interest rates in China. Yes, they're spending money on infrastructure, but not like other countries in the world, not like Japan or the U.S. or other places. Japan or the Chinese, for whatever reason, are still somewhat constrained and moderate. Now, that gives them a lot more firepower if they ever want to use it. I hope they don't. But so far, I mean, the Japanese market's down 60%. They're doing a less bad job. As I said, I bought some Japanese shares yesterday, and I'm looking for more. The market's down 60%. I prefer to buy places that are down, not places that are up.
So, and then what's happening with Russia?
Well, Russia's hated, as you know. Everybody, if you can spell Russia, people leave the room. They don't want to talk to you because, oh my gosh. I had to talk to a friend this morning, and I was telling him about something exciting happening in Russia. He starts talking to me about the Cold War. You know, he's old. He's in his 50s or 60s, and he still remembers the Cold War, and he can't get over that Russia's changed. Russia's been a disaster. It's hated. It's got huge natural resources. It's not a big debtor. Nobody would lend money to the communists, so the Russians don't have huge debts like other countries in the world, Japan, America, England, other places. So there are opportunities there. I see change, positive change taking place. So I bought some more Russian shares yesterday.
And then what do you think about this Saudi Arabia, Russia? I don't know. I have no idea what happened there, but something happened.
Well, it doesn't matter what happened. We know the results. The results are that oil's $20 or $15 or whatever it is, which is very bad for Saudi Arabia. They've been spending staggering amounts of money to keep themselves in power. This is really going to hit them bad. It's certainly not helping the Russians, but the Russians have other things. The Russians have agriculture is booming in Russia. You know, Mr. Trump put sanctions on Russia 2 or 3 years ago. Every day, Russian farmers wake up and say, "Thank you, Mr. Trump. Thank you, Mr. Trump." You know, Russian agriculture is booming because of these sanctions, which are designed to hurt the Russians. So, and the Russians have a lot of other things besides oil. So they're not getting hurt. In fact, they're being helped in some parts of their economy. So as I look around the world, I try to find places where maybe something will survive all this. I'm not buying anything in a big way, Robert. I told you before that I expect the rally to go on for a while, but eventually this is not over because the huge structural damage is being done to the world economy. I mean, and by the way, the collapse in the price of oil helps places like China, Japan, Korea, Germany, you know, people who use oil. They wake up every day and say, "Oh my God, look at this. This is wonderful." Doesn't help Saudi Arabia, doesn't help Texas, but it certainly helps some people.
And then how about England or the UK?
Well, I have fond memories of the UK, but unfortunately, the UK has built up huge debts, just unbelievable debts. The country may disintegrate. The Scots now want to leave. They see the success that Britain had leaving the EU. Now the Scots may try again. There's a good chance that the UK is going to split up. You know, the UK's only been around a couple of hundred years as the United Kingdom. It didn't come down from Mount Sinai or something, and it could split up again. And then they don't have much to sell. The Scots will take the oil, what oil is left. The English don't have much to sell to the world. Then the Northern Irish will leave, you know, because island of Ireland, the island of Ireland, 100 years ago, they all hated each other because of religion. Well, that's not so important anymore. And they're now friendlier and friendlier. So the Northern Irish may leave too. I hate to say it, but, history doesn't stop because I love the UK. History doesn't care what I love.
And then what about Germany?
I said before, that even German cities now, some of them have big debt problems. I guess of all the European countries, it is still among the least unsound. Merkel knows she needs immigrants. She needs workers. She needs young people. And so she brought in a lot of let immigrants come in. Germany is probably less unsound. I have to think about this. It's certainly less unsound than many countries in Europe now. But I mean, Robert, I'm going to say, look out the window. You can't see Europe, but if you could, you will see most of those countries have serious problems now. No, the world is in the middle of huge, huge change, but that's always been the case. We just have to learn to recognize it and adapt.
And what about our northern Canada?
Canada. Well, Canada, that's a very interesting question. That's very good. I should think more about it. But, Canada has vast natural resources. They have debt, but nothing like some other places. They are receptive to immigrants, and immigrants have always been good for a country. They bring in new energy, new brains, new ways to think about things, new capital. That's why America became great. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we gave people land if they would come to America. We begged people to come to America, and we became the most successful country in the world. Countries that have brought in immigrants throughout history have done well, and countries that have closed off have gone into decline, whether we like it or not. History is pretty clear about that. Canada likes immigrants. They have plenty of room for immigrants. They have huge natural resources. So I guess I should be looking closer at Canada now. Okay. And I haven't looked at Canada in a while. So thank you. See, I told you, Robert, you should listen to the Rich Dad radio show.
You're such a carrot. And not the final one, but what about our southern NAFTA partner, Mexico?
Well, Mexico has a huge reliance on oil. They don't publicize it a lot. Their population has grown, continues to grow a lot. They have, I don't know the current numbers, but say 40% of the budget depends on the price of oil. The price of, what's happened to the price of oil. The price of oil has collapsed, so Mexico is probably going to have some more serious problems going forward. It's not often thought of as an oil economy, but a huge part of the government revenue depends on the price of oil, and the population that continues to go up. So I am, of the two you mentioned, Canada and Mexico, I would urge you to look at Canada instead of Mexico in the future, at least in the spring of 2020.
Okay. And our friends in Australia, New Zealand, do you ever pay attention out there?
Oh, yeah. No. I was just in Australia, as a matter of fact. Not that that matters for anything. They have natural resources, too. The Australians call themselves the lucky country, but they have worse politicians than we do, Robert. I know that's hard to believe, isn't it? That anybody could have worse politicians than we do. But no, they have run and are continuing to run up huge debts there. They're cutting back on immigration. For a while, the immigration helped them a great deal. I guess New Zealand is probably a better place to look. But New Zealand only has 5 million people. I mean, it's only so much. It's got 5 million people and 60 million sheep. So you can look at New Zealand, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. But I wouldn't go putting all of my money into New Zealand.
And then my final is kind of a demographic question. This thing called the baby boomers are starting to retire. And do you pay much attention to that, with the pensions, like Kentucky, where McConnell is from, they went single digits. In other words, they had 16% funded. They're now down to 9%. And so when McConnell mentioned bankruptcy, then the Democrats took off saying, well, you're not going to take away the firefighters, police officers, and school teachers' pensions. Do you pay much attention? Because on a global scale, again, that's the reason we wanted to talk to you. On the global scale, between 2020 and 2030, approximately 2 billion people will hit, quote unquote, retirement age. And do you pay much attention to that? If the 401k stop working and stuff like this?
Robert, we have to. I mentioned Japan before. The population has been declining for 10 years, and the debt has been skyrocketing for 30 years. No, Japan has got serious, serious problems. We'll start with other people first. You know, many European countries, there are demonstrations every month in some European countries because all the old people have been promised a lot. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, the politicians promised them everything. Well, now those old people are getting old and they expect what they were promised. But most European countries don't have what they promised. Italy, France, etc. They don't have it. So no, we're getting more and more problems. Now to the U.S. The state of Illinois is bankrupt because of its pensions. Not just Illinois, Connecticut. I mean, when I was a kid, Connecticut was just as sound as it could possibly be. Now it's essentially bankrupt. But I don't have to, you know the names, California, Illinois, you just mentioned Kentucky. There are many that are essentially bankrupt now. And how is this going to wind up? Well, the old people are not going to be happy. And the old people vote. But their sons and daughters aren't going to be happy either because, they got to take care of their grandparents and their parents. No. This is, I said before, in 1920, the UK was the richest, most powerful country in the world. And then a lot of accumulated problems started hitting. And they started spending money and et cetera, et cetera. And you know the rest of that story. I don't like saying it, Robert. But if I ignore facts, if we all ignore facts, we're going to be in serious trouble. Asia has a less bad situation than the rest of us because they don't have the huge debts. Japan does, but most Asian countries don't have the gigantic debts that the West does. Some parts of Asia have a demographic problem, yes. But unfortunately, the worst demographic problem is in Europe and Japan. So we can watch and learn from, what's happening in Japan. Robert, I want to repeat, for 10 years, the population has been declining. That's never happened in recorded history. So the whole world has this big demographic time bomb facing it, and there's a lot of debt. It's a good thing we're not 22, Robert. I feel sorry for young people. I feel sorry for my children. But wow, it's going to be a mess in 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my friend, I really thank you for your wisdom and your insights and your continuing encouragement for people to move forward, look forward. So you take care.
I told you, Robert, just listen to Robert and you'll find out. You can give us all hot tips, but do not listen to hot tips.
I don't
Stay with what you know. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, my friend. You take care.